Hello and welcome to the 15-minute show, part of the Arsenal Therapy podcast. I'm your host, Adam Keys, and today I am joined by Monty. How are you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, thank you, Adam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So we are starting the day with some pretty good news with Gabriel Jesus returning to training. The news that Jurrien Timber's training with the ball, although I am led to believe from some of our physio friends on Twitter that the kind of timeline of what we're seeing from Timber is actually fairly normal with an ACL injury. So not to get too excited just yet, but it is still nice to see him with the ball at his feet and on the pitch and running again. So that's obviously great news. And then the big thing today is we're going to have a chat about Joshua Zirzee, the Dutch striker at Bologna, who you know quite a bit about. So this should be an interesting show. And but anyone who's watching, please make sure to hit the like button on the video. It really helps us with the algorithm. And but yeah, we're going to run through some of the stories of today. Zirkzee is the main one that's kind of in the headlines right now. So let's have a chat about him. So firstly, Monty, the story itself has come from Sam Dean at the Telegraph. Sam
hmm
Dean is usually pretty reliable with Arsenal news. He's not a gossip journalist. He's someone that tends to only put stuff out when there is something there. And the stuff about Zirkzee, this has been mentioned before, so it is an interesting one. But before we started talking, you were saying you've watched a lot of Bologna, that they're kind of your Italian team. So just tell us what you know about them, and then we'll dive in a bit deeper.
Yeah, no, Joshua Zirzee, one extremely tall, imposing striker. Although, like, I know a lot of people probably fall down the little pigeonhole trap and look at comps of him and be like, "Oh my god, this guy's the next Mbappe." He's not, but he definitely has a lot of traits that I like. I personally didn't think it was a realistic deal because he is quite vital to Bologna and they're having such a good season. But as a player, he's just very direct. Like he gets the ball on his back and he will happily turn his defender and run at them. And the best thing about it, you'll have the wingers from Bologna. The way that they tend to attack is they overload the Zirkzee, and then you've got Ferguson who does the overlap in the middle as well. And he brings a lot of his players in. Like his shot creating actions are extremely high for a striker. He's a very proficient passer. He's got very good range on him, and he's just lightning quick. It's lightning quick. The only thing I would say about him that needs to improve, because I've watched him a fair few times, is that he's not the best finisher. Like he will get in. He's a like I was saying just before. He reminds me a little bit of Darwin Núñez in the sense that he's quite raw. He's still got, but he has got that potential. So I definitely think it's a player that's worth a punt. But don't think going into the comps that he's gonna be slick and banging these sort of goals. But if I had to say his kind of play style and what he is, he's kind of like a Sanchez and Giroud in one, in the sense that Giroud, he's the target man. He is definitely a target man. You put the ball on him, and then he can put players off him into the game. But he has that Sanchez in his back. Like he will just take the ball and turn, and he will do it himself. And he will happily shoot from range. He's sometimes taking the free kicks for Bologna as well. It's not the set piece taker, but he has, which has actually pretty much got a goal, but it was in pre-season. But no, in regard to him as a player, he's everything I kind of want actually. I just don't know. It will be quite a difficult deal to do just because he is actually quite vital to Bologna and considering the season they're having and they're chasing Champions League now, which is not where they thought they would be at the start of the season. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of those that this has obviously come out of. I would say there's been a few whispers of this recently, and then Sam Dean's really been the one to break this story, which, and from what we've seen is Bologna have said they don't want to sell him in January, and there are mixed reports that some of the value him around 50 million. Others are saying there is actually a release clause in his contract. Again, the actual details of that release clause are subject to mixed reports, let's just say. So some are saying that it's only actually applicable to Bayern, and others are saying it's a 39 million euro release clause. So let's wait
Yeah.
and see what comes out of that. But uh,
I think 50 million personally is quite high, just because of how raw he is. and I mean, he only came from Bayern not last year, but the season before.
Yeah,
He came for about 8 million, 8.5, I think it was. So they will get a lot of money from him no matter what. They're going to get a return on him, and they'll definitely have enough money to buy another player. It will be quite a difficult one. I don't think there is a release clause. I didn't remember there being one when he came over to Bologna. If there is, great. I mean, we got a fixed fee, but no, it's going to be. I think we can get him less for less than 50, but it's just going to be a difficult one. There's probably going to be a lot of clauses, like an upfront fee of like, I don't know, 25, and then loads of bonus incentives, like if we cups or we go, he gets X amount of appearances, so it could probably work out more than 50 million by achieving goals. But no, we'll have to see. But I when like you, when I saw the links yesterday, and I was like, it didn't even cross my mind like in the previous weeks, because I always really liked Lewis Openda from RB Leipzig, but that was just more personally. But this is a very good deal. It'll be a very good deal, and I think Arteta could definitely get the best out of him. And he gives us something completely different that we don't have in up front. I mean, Jesus is great off the ball as well, and he can do the sort of the tricky take-ons, but he doesn't have that physical power to go up against some like big, because like I was saying to you earlier, he is literally like a William Saliba up front. He's an absolute unit. Like, he's got to be 6'3", 6'4" easily. He pretty much is taller than every defender he goes up against. But weirdly, he's quite bad at headers. Like
it happens more often than not. But yeah, the story itself has been reported also by the Mail as well, that Arsenal are keeping an eye on him. So Simon Jones at the Mail, and this was a follow-up story that came out this morning after Sam Dean's article yesterday, and it shows that there is more than just kind of one person reporting this. Sam Dean has said that Arsenal are willing to do business this month, but obviously finances will dictate what we can do. But one of I think the key lines in this story is that we are mindful of when everyone's fit, the squad is actually pretty balanced and pretty strong. And I think that's something that as fans, we're looking at the squad right now and looking at, we've got holes in midfield, we've got hardly any defenders fit, but actually the only true area, in my opinion, where we're really, really light is the wide areas. In Saka and Martinelli have no competition. They've got no rotation options. There's no one pushing them for their place. So I think this is something that whilst a shiny new toy is always the thing we want, it's getting it right in January. But they interestingly as well, after Sam Dean's article came out, Ornstein did a Q&A on The Athletic. And one of the questions was about Arsenal, whether we would spend. And someone said, I want your opinion on this, and what does your gut say? And he says, it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up doing something reactive towards the end of the window, purely because they're always attentive to the market. They are short in places, and we can never say never. So I think that is the first time Ornstein's really said that we could do something in the market. He's very much played it down. And it tends to be with Ornstein, when he gives you a snippet, it's because it's come from a very, very official source. He's not a guy that kind of
throws it out loosely,
that's why he's the GOAT. He doesn't do rumours, he more deals in facts. But within the Sam Dean article as well, he has mentioned that we are still plotting the move for Jorrel Hato, who we have discussed before. So, and that's something, again, will be a summer move. But back to Zirkzee himself, because this is what we're really here to talk about. He's 193 centimeters, which is 6'4", and 22 years old, right-footed striker. And if you look at his numbers this season, 7 goals in 18 games and 2 assists. He's played just shy of 1,600 minutes, and he's very much played in that 9 role, as you said. Those goal scoring numbers, I mean, they're not numbers that are going to get you excited when it comes to a striker. 18 games, 7 goals.
The thing with him though, it's more like I hate it, but the pre-assist. Like if you ever watch him with the dynamic that he has with Lewis Ferguson, it's really interesting to watch. Like, if you watch how Lewis Ferguson plays, he's quite It's quite a brazen player. He's quite a strong and direct player. Kind of a bit like an Erdegaard. Like he always wants to probe, and Lewis Ferguson's having a really great season. But I can see if that was, say, Martin Erdegaard on him, who's a little bit more technical, I think you would see a much better Zirkzee, because what Bologna tend to do is they tend to play quite a lot of long balls and play it direct. They either go to Lewis Ferguson or they go to Zirkzee. They're the two sort of main prongs of attack. Because Zirkzee is just tall. He can bring it down, and then what he'll do is he'll let it, like kind of like how what Havertz does. He like brings it down and he can play it back. That's what he kind of does. And then Lewis Ferguson will then be the guy who can get it up. Or if Zirkzee's only got one man on him, he will turn. He will turn his man and he will go at it. But if he's got two on him, he'll play the safe shot. It doesn't sort of take the risks. And what I like about the deal, if we get him, it's kind of like we get two players, because when Jesus comes back, Jesus comes down the wing. So Jesus could take Saka off. He could take Martinelli off. Do you know what I mean? Because you're not relying on him as a goal scoring threat. And I don't think Jesus is a goal scoring. Well, he can be, but I don't think he should be the 9. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like we'd get the best out of Jesus if he was on the wing, because when the goal creation that he can do on the wing is much better than I think as a goal scorer up front. That's just me personally.
Yeah, I also have this niggling feeling, and it may be pure madness, that Gabriel Jesus could play as a left 8. And he's got the tenacity, he can pass, he can dribble. I don't know why. I mean, against City or someone like that, I wouldn't want to see Jesus playing there, but I would love to see him and against a low block side, throw Jesus into that position and just see what he could come up with. So
creativity alone,
it's just the kind of the areas that he likes to drop into. It would be interesting to see. But just looking at Zirkzee's numbers, I think the key thing for Arsenal, and I think every fan wants to see, is someone that can put the ball in the net. And that is something we obviously have to look at, because that's going to be the first question every fan is going to say is, but can he score goals? Yeah. And with Zirkzee, if you look at his XG, he is actually outperforming it. So an XG of 5.25, he's got 7 goals. He's someone, he's not hitting a lot of penalties. He's 1 penalty goal, and he is scoring goals from regular play. He's scoring quite a range of goals. But as you said, what's interesting is he's scoring he's not a big header of the ball. However, if you look at what he's doing, a lot of his work is with his feet. So like of his actions, his shooting actions, 40 of those are with his feet. Only 4 of those are with his head, which shows he is someone that wants the ball in the feet. And like we always think tall striker, good in the air, but what people forget is players grow at different rates. So some people will hit a growth spurt when they're kind of 16, 17, whatever, and kind of spent their whole kind of youth development working on their ball skills. And as a result, by the time they hit this growth spurt, they haven't been a player that's had that height all their life and hasn't been to. And if you look at William Saliba, that was his biggest weakness for a long time, and it's something he's really worked on since he's come to Arsenal. But what's interesting about Zirkzee, and very much feeds into what you've been saying, is the number of touches he has per game. And he actually is averaging more touches per game than Gabriel Jesus. And we know with Jesus, that's one of his kind of biggest things is his involvement in games. And Jesus has 31.6 touches per game on average. Zirkzee has 43.6, which is pretty insane number of passes. And
well, the ones I think are more that stand out to me more, and especially just the player that Zirkzee is. When you look at his carries, he's doing up to 26 carries a game,
which is insane.
Insane. Carries into the final third is 2 per game. That's ridiculous. And his take-ons is 4 attempted a game.
And again, big chances created. He's got 8 compared to Jesus, which is 2. And so these kind of things. Another
defensive as well. He's got the defensive marking him. Like he will track back, and because he's so tall, he's so good on set pieces. He's so good at defending set pieces.
Interestingly as well is just looking, because again, people will want a striker that scores goals, and I think that is what we are lacking at the minute, is that bagsman up front that will really kill teams. but his scoring frequency, Jesus scores every 316 minutes this season, compared to Zirkzee every 228. So again, not the most kind of clinical, but
Zirkzee will be better though. If it's more the type of play, I think the way that we play, if he doesn't score more, what he will do, he will add 10 goals a season to Saka and Martinelli. Just the way, the kind of player that is, because he's so direct. He kind of makes centre backs sweat. Like if you ever watched in the Roma game, they had to really mark him. Both the centre backs had to go on him, which actually allowed their wingers to get open. And I think it was Ornstein, if I remember rightly, who scored the winning goal. I can't remember if it was Ornstein. But I just remember them running off, and they basically is because he took two centre backs completely out the game, and then there was a run off of him. And then you had the Lazio game as well. You had Milan in the Coppa Italia. He's a threat. Like he generally centre backs are scared of him because he's so imposing and he's so direct. Because like you were saying just before we jumped on, when you get someone who's really tall, you don't think of them to be like such a unit and solid. You tend them to think quite lanky and skinny. He's not that. He's really not that. And he's like a centre back as a striker.
He's built.
Yeah.
But again, with his goal conversion, he has an average conversion rate this season of 16%. Jesus's conversion rate this season is 9%, which is really, really low.
That's really poor,
and Jesus's conversion rate last season was 14%. So again, Zirkzee has a higher conversion rate. And I think what's interesting about this one is obviously he is 22 years old. He's still a very, very young player. He was someone that came through at Bayern and he didn't have the best time. He's that very famous one where he rounds the keeper, goes to tap it in, and he gets the ball taken off him on the line. But I think those experiences have shaped him a bit. And this is a player who's on the up. You're not buying a 25-year-old whose goal scoring is kind of
where it's at.
These numbers. You're buying someone who's improving, who's really going places. And as you said, this guy can lead a line by himself. So that's something that's very interesting. And I think one of the kind of things that stand out to me is there is the potential of you sign him and you sign someone else if he's coming in around the 50 million mark, because you could go for him that push Jesus out to the wing, sell Nketiah. Because I would like to keep Jesus because I think his versatility across that front three is something that you don't really want to lose. And he will play a lot of games. And when you look at his injury record, he's always going to play a lot of games when he's available. But for this kind of price, if you could get it down, if they're rating him at 50 million, you're probably going to get him for 35, 40. And,
I think we can get him cheaper than 50. It would just be. I just think, like I said, it's going to be all the incentives and stuff coming in after it.
You could probably get him for what you sell Nketiah for, and then that leaves budget for the kind of main kind of crown jewel of the squad. So I think this is a very interesting one. I really like the look of this player. He's someone that he's got pace, he's got power, he's got that ball playing ability.
Passes the eye test as well.
He passes the eye test. His numbers are fantastic, but it's kind of going to that next level. And I think this is a player with real potential. And that is something that's going to annoy fans because they want that finished article right now. But I think we're just going to have to watch this space on this one.
I would much rather have a player who can do a job and has a lot more potential. Like people are saying like Ivan Toney and Solanke's, like, they are as good as they're going to get. They're not going to get any better.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be there for years. They're going to drop off after 2-3 years. Whereas like we going for Zirkzee, you're talking like this is a player who's only going to get better, and we could have him for 8 to 7 years. Do you know what I mean? This is a player you could. Do you know what I mean? Like these are the transfers I prefer because short-term fixes cause long-term problems. This is what we learned when we were coming out of Wenger. We were buying these short, quick fixes, old players, big contracts.
Socrates, Lichtsteiner, Cedric, Pablo Mari, like all these mental signings. But just to wrap up, so Romano has said about Arteta's contract, and he said basically there are a lot of fans asking about Arteta just having 18 months left. But Arteta loves Arsenal. Arsenal are very happy with the job he's doing. and there's every likelihood that this deal is going to be extended, which is going to be awful news for some of the miserable fans that we've got who are screaming Arteta out, despite the fact he's taken us from 8th to 2nd and into a proper title race. And like I'm sure you were the same, but you watched Liverpool and City a few years ago and you looked at it and thought, we're never getting to that level. And now we're here. So
we played better than Liverpool. We just didn't score.
I know. So it's one of those. It's great news to have Arteta renewing there. But yeah, we will wrap up the show there. So thank you for joining, Monty. It's been great having you again. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button and join us again on Tuesday for the show, where hopefully by that stage we will have some more concrete news on these signings. So thank you to everyone that's joined. Have a great day. I keep an eye out for the full podcast on Apple and Spotify. Cheers, guys.